This is really exciting. This is kind of random for my channel, but I am bringing my husband on today because we created a podcast episode talking about our journey on Turo. And if you don't follow the podcast, you can check us out at the Messy Success Podcast. I talk about everything there, business and life, while this YouTube channel is a little bit more around community building. But this was too good not to share. We are already getting close to buying our second car because ding, 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 that means it's going well. If this is your first time checking us out, my name is Elizabeth and I help business owners nurture, grow, and monetize their communities and make branding and marketing feel really, really simple. So you'll have to check out some of our other videos. But today, let's talk about Turo, which is a car sharing app, and how Mark and I got started on our journey.
It's a peer-to-peer rental platform for your vehicle.
And like Mark mentioned, Turo is car sharing. It's essentially the Airbnb of like car rentals, right? So you can go online, you're traveling, you can choose a car that you want to rent, and you're renting it from an actual person, not like a rental company. So it tends to be cheaper. It tends to be a little bit more of a white glove experience because you can have the car delivered to you or delivered to a certain place. All I really remember is I watched a few TikTok videos and shared it with a couple people, including you. I was like, hey, this looks cool.
I don't know if Liz has told you this or not, but she says I operate with a scarcity mindset. So I'm always worrying about where the next dollar is going to come from. And so I listen a lot about stuff on the stock market and watch the news, a lot of stuff on the finance. And I saw some news about the auto industry and the car market and where it could potentially end up, if we possibly go into recession. So I thought about, using some of our capital that we have to buy some cars and flip them. And by flip them, I mean, resell the entire vehicle. That was kind of what I told her I wanted to do. She sent the video to me and I was like, well, this seems a little bit more doable and less labor intensive. And I started doing some research on it and some market research on it. And I thought this can't be as easy as it sounds, but turns out it was. And we were in a great position to pursue it because our car had just been paid off.
Inside these Facebook groups, I just see how many people are wildly unsuccessful. And while we're only 2 months in, I would say we've been very successful, but we're also very cautious of like, is this how it's really going to be? We're really looking at the data to see what this is going to look like in 6 months. But since we started, the car has like barely been in our driveway. So it's done very, very well. And I think a lot of that is because Mark is a little bit more risk averse. Is that the right way to say it? Risk averse?
Yeah, I don't like taking risk, is what that means.
Yeah. So we talked about Turo, and I would have just jumped in willy-nilly and probably been one of those people trying to figure it out as I went. But Mark did a lot of research. We watched a lot of hours of YouTube and even listened to some podcasts on the road. And I would say that is a huge reason why we have done as well as we have. How many months do you think it was? 3, 6?
Yeah, I mean, it took us probably a month just in itself to get the vehicle ready. We're definitely looking at it before we left at the end of August to go on our family vacation. And we had a goal with getting the car kind of positioned for rental, early October. And that's kind of the date that we hit. So it was probably somewhere 3.5 months, maybe.
Yeah,
roughly.
we knew we wanted to start right when the kids went to school, because once the kids started school, we wouldn't need the second vehicle as much. So we set that as a goal. And I guess we kind of worked backwards and just did as much research as we possibly could. And we really didn't spend that much money that we wouldn't have already put into my vehicle just in regular maintenance.
Yeah. So I think the first question you have to ask yourself is, what's the shape of my vehicle in? And is this suitable for people? Is it going to attract a renter? And in the aspect of our Highlander, I mean, it was in really good shape for being a 2012. The radio was out of date. So that was one thing that I wanted to invest some capital in. And that was really the one outlier. Everything else that we did to prep our vehicle would have been done in the normal process of maintaining our vehicle. So we did change the tires. We put brand new tires, but she had bald tires on it. We got the state inspection done. We got normal service checks done, checking the brakes, rotors, things of that nature. So really the big thing at the end of the day was just installing an Apple CarPlay radio for those Android and Apple users, or so what Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It's hard to say, but for accessibility of people to be able to populate, their phone onto the dash while driving, really for navigation purposes. We had an old 90s looking radio in there, it felt like. So other than that, just a lot of time and energy kind of detail cleaning the car, which was time well spent.
From a marketing standpoint, people either specialize in luxury cars or kind of like regular economy cars, everyday cars. What's the word for that?
Economy cars.
Okay.
Yeah, economy car.
Like people kind of had a niche, and I looked at Mark and I said, okay, we're obviously not going the luxury car market. We want to attract families, so we made sure that we included our car seats as like add-ons. And the cool thing that we noticed was if you search in our area for a car that has car seats, we're like the second vehicle to pop up. So I think that's one thing that also set us apart is, there's already luxury vehicles for rent here in Virginia Beach. There's already everyday kind of like the most affordable options. We wanted to be somewhere in the middle and really attract families that wanted, a Toyota Highlander that we know is reliable and has good gas mileage and can fit all the kids. And we know we'd rather clean up, Cheerios than, spilled beer from a college kid or whatever it might be. And so far, I feel like that's exactly what we've attracted is families or people with kids that are coming into the airport and maybe going to the Outer Banks, or we have one local that's kind of one of our regular renters that's been awesome. But I think knowing exactly, just like in any other business, who your ideal client is really helpful too.
The great thing about Turo is you have the flexibility as a host to really market your vehicle to who your renter would be. So all the things that Liz said, are correct in that facet. And you can list your vehicle at any time you want. You can remove it at any time you want. You can snooze it so that it's not searchable by anybody. And you can add a ton of features on it, such as a car seat that makes, you kind of a single source renter almost. And it's nice, you get a chance to really put images of your vehicle on your listing, which for us is a huge advantage because Liz is a photographer, so our pictures are some of the best that you'll probably see. But yeah, tons of different listing capabilities, from beach toys and chairs to a cooler to board games to a car seat, all different types of features that you can list to make your vehicle more accessible to a certain renter.
Speaking of the profile, the pictures I think are a huge thing that set us apart, because again, I don't think the level of success that we've seen is normal. I think we did our research. We put a lot of work in before we actually launched and started. But when I built out the customer profile, I said, okay, if I was the customer, like what would I want to see? And I, did some market research of other profiles that were performing well. And I made sure to mention that, I work remotely and that Mark has a hybrid schedule, because that means that we're accessible, right? Like if we both worked 9 to 5, it would be really hard for us to have great customer service during those hours, or to be able, to go out and help someone. We haven't had to, knock on wood, but, if someone gets a flat tire in our car, we need to kind of be accessible if something happens that is unexpected. So I think setting up our profile that way helped a lot too. We've talked a little bit about Q1 next year, getting our LLC so that we can purchase another car. Because I think you said there's some benefits to buying after you already have the LLC.
Yeah, big thing with an LLC and running it outside of your personal business is if for some reason something happens and there's a liability issue, the renter, if they think you're at fault and want to sue you, can come after everything in your personal wealth. Where if your business is attached to an LLC, they can only come for the assets in your LLC. So that's the big thing for me, is just, again, being risk adverse. I'd rather them come for nothing than everything. If it's just a vehicle or some funds that we have within the business, I'm okay with that. But putting my family funds and house and other vehicles at risk is not something I'm okay with. So I do think, goal number one come Q1 or January is for us to establish that LLC and look to start expanding our fleet some.
Maybe get a second car so that we're not always a one car family. But so far, we've only had to get one Uber trip, I think, this whole time.
I think if you have the availability to have a remote or hybrid schedule, and you can kind of figure out your day-to-day schedule, and if you can be a one car family or one car individual or not, then I think if you can run a vacuum and run your car through a car wash, I think it's a great opportunity for most to look into gaining some extra capital in their business or extra income for whatever. I'd say it is nice going into holiday season this year, knowing that everything that we have made from Turo will cover pretty much all that we need for Christmas shopping. And our kids are not cheap.
Well, and it's semi-passive, right? Like we all know there's really no such thing as completely passive income. Because no matter what, you've got to work on something, but it's semi-passive. So when the car is out and it's being rented, obviously we are just making money and not having to do anything. So being really mindful of how often you want to flip the car, you can control how long people can rent the car. So I was like, I'm not really interested in renting anything shorter than, I think originally we said 3 days and we bumped it to 2 because I don't want him out flipping the car that often. We're very busy. So we sort of set it up to really focus on some of the longer term rentals so that it can be more passive. And like he said, because the car is paid off, we're in a position where we can, play with some of that a little bit and set it up how it works for us and not necessarily like, oh my gosh, we have to, make this much money. But we've done well so far. So I'm really glad that we gave it a try.
Yeah.
I didn't actually think he would. I was like, this looks cool. People are making money doing this. And I was pretty surprised that he was like, let's do it.
Needed more money for no reason, apparently, but needed more.
All right. Well, thanks, babe, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.